Well, well, well. Will you just look at these brave souls that would travel such a distance just to have a visit with little old me? I know. You just want some more ghost stories. Well, I am the ghost host after all. What kind of host would I be if I didn't comply? Our first tale of terror tonight comes from a member of a military family. They moved around a lot, but this one home seemed to have a ghost that just didn't want any roommates. It's called, I have lived in 14 homes. This house was the most hateful haunting.
We were a military family who moved quite often. Of all the 14 homes I have lived in, this house was the most intense haunting I have ever experienced. From the moment we stepped foot in that house, I could feel an insane heavy weight and darkness there. There were a few bizarre things about this house. For one, someone was watching me. I felt as if I was being stalked in this house every moment of every day. I can remember how uneasy I felt. The two rooms I despised the most were my parents' bathroom and my own bedroom. At the time, I was around 10 to 11 years old. My brother was about 15 to 16. We had chores as normal kids do, and one of those had to do with cleaning parts of every bathroom in the house, including my parents'. My brother and I both refused to go into my parents' bathroom. I have no idea how to describe this feeling. There were many mirrors in the bathroom, and it felt like someone was standing right behind you at all times in here. At 26, the thought of this room gives me chills to this day. My mother did not question our concern and never forced us to be in there, thank God. My bedroom was the worst for me. I did not spend much time in here as I felt the most seen in this room, and the dread I felt was immense. I would go to sleep every night hiding under the covers because it made me feel better. Because I knew someone or something was watching me. I would hear whispers in this room, and my door would sway some nights. I felt as though my bed was a table that people were congregating around, as the whispers were different people in different spaces around me. I could never make out what they were saying, but to be honest, I did not try to hear them. I ignored them every night. I was lucky enough to have a box TV in my room, and it sat on my tall dresser. One day, I'm in my room watching TV, laying in front of the dresser. I get this image in my head of the whole thing toppling over me, hurting me. I disregard the idea as the dresser is real wood, extremely heavy with the added TV on top. The dresser handles start to move, and the dresser sways a bit by itself. I got up and never laid in front of it again. My brother and I would hear footsteps throughout the night. A few times we thought it must be a break-in, but it never was. I never physically saw anything in this house, but I have never had a more fearful, intense, and horrible feeling living somewhere. Thank you for reading.
Geez, I know I've asked before, but I gotta ask again. What the hell is up with some ghost haunting bathrooms? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll haunt someone almost anywhere, except for the bathroom. And why? Because I'm scared of what I might see. Just picture this, if you will. You're a ghost hanging out in the bathroom. A dude comes in, you're thinking, cool, I'll get to scare this dude good. Then you discover, way too late, that the guy ate some bad chili. He goes in there and releases a whole crap storm, as it were. Just the smell alone would repel me. I gotta tell you, it would work better than any sage. Next, we have a story from an OP that believes she's being contacted by her dearly departed father. It's called, Hi Dad.
The following events happened in the early morning hours of what would have been my father's 80th birthday had he not passed away 2 years prior. This is a bit embarrassing. I woke up that morning around 4 a.m. and had to pee. I made my way to the bathroom. After laying my cell phone by the sink, I went to pee. In a Google Assistant voice, my phone uttered something like, "Your father's name," if not specifically those words. This kind of startled me because it's my dad's birthday and I heard my phone say this, but what followed really shocked me. My phone launched into Sinead O'Connor's version of Nirvana's All Apologies. Facts: my relationship with my father did not end well. Growing up, my father would playfully tease me about how much I loved Miss Sinead O'Connor. My phone was not within reach when this occurred. The Google Assistant is not something I use. The sensation of my dad reaching out to me in an attempt to make amends overwhelmed me. I am unsure of the cause of this happening. Has anyone else had a similar experience? Clarification. The phone didn't say my dad's name, it said your dad's name.
Wait a second. What the hell is wrong with liking Sinead O'Connor? I loved her music. Next up, we have one from a woman that has an experience as her godmother is passing away. It causes her to ask the question, was she saying goodbye?
This experience happened in November 1995. On Thanksgiving Day, my godmother was rushed to the emergency room because she was not feeling well. Once at the hospital, things went downhill fast, and she was admitted into ICU and put on life support to help her breathe because she was having trouble breathing on her own. Well, my mother and I stayed with her until late that evening and decided to go home and get some rest so we could be back by her side in the morning. Once we were home, I decided to sleep in my mother's room in case the hospital called with news. At around 2 a.m., I woke up to my dog growling this low growl, so I nudged him, thinking he was growling in his sleep. A few minutes later, he started again, but this time he was sitting up on the edge of the bed staring into the living room. Well, my dog got louder and louder until he woke up my mom. We both got up and saw nothing. I calmed my dog down and went back to bed. Maybe 10 minutes later, I could hear footsteps in the living room, but not normal footsteps. These sounded like they walked by dragging one foot behind them. Both my mother and I are sitting up in bed looking into the living room, hearing the footsteps but seeing nothing. As I was getting out of the bed, I heard a noise, the sound of someone dropping something on the table. But still, I saw nothing, and the dog was going crazy at this point. When I went to turn on the light, the phone rang. It was the hospital informing us that my godmother, Mom's sister, had just had a stroke and was in a coma. The news was heartbreaking, and when my mom hung up the phone, we headed to the hospital. It was about a 30-minute drive to the hospital, and neither one of us spoke a word. My mind was on my godmother and what just happened at home, right before the phone rang. Once we arrived at the hospital, we got out the car, and there was the strongest smell of roses in the air, with no roses to be found. We both smelled those roses all the way to my godmother's room in ICU. Then the smell faded away once we entered her room. The doctor came in and informed us that tests revealed that the stroke caused major swelling in the brain, and because of that, she had damage to her brainstem. The next day, she was removed from life support and passed away. Now, I can't explain what happened in those early morning hours. Some say she was saying goodbye, and others just don't know. What do you think?
Well, some say that we ghosts get stuck here because we have unfinished business to complete. Sometimes that unfinished business is just simply saying goodbye. Well, I see it's getting late, but I'll tell you one more, just to keep you warm on your way home. Our last story just goes to show you that even big corporations are not immune to ghosts. It's called Ghost Stories from the Corporate World.
Being the logical corporate world, there is hardly any space for ghost stories and theories. However, this one I can't ignore. I work as an operations manager for a multi-service company. I work on the 17th floor of a massive high-rise office building in the middle of town. Most days I waste away with my spreadsheets and inventory passing the day in front of my computer. Other days I actually visit my sites and talk to my staff. The building I am in has staff of mine in it, but only 4 of them, so I rarely see them as they are generally on the other floors, hard at work. Only after 2 weeks of being with the company did I realize that 3 floors of the building have no tenants. Just 800 square meters of empty, dark rooms with thin walls and dark blue carpets. Each floor has 3 bathrooms, male, female, and paraplegic, which we service only once a month if there are no tenants in the floors. All seemed normal until one day my elevator ride from my office floor to the ground was unintentionally stopped on one of the empty floors. I poked my head out of the elevator thinking there was someone getting on, only to notice we had stopped on floor 14, the uninhabited floor. My body went cold as I stared into the empty hallway, noticing nobody around. I crept back into the elevator and looked at the buttons to see if I accidentally pressed it. Nothing. The only floor glowing was the ground floor. Strange. I pressed the close doors button, but the elevator wouldn't close. I began to panic. I stepped out the elevator and pressed the outside button, hoping another elevator would show up. I stood quiet for a moment and watched as the elevator I had just exited starting to close, and I was just not quick enough to grab the doors. There I stood, alone in the dark next to the empty office, and the eerie sound of with the wind blowing against the building. I bolted for the fire escape stairs when I heard it, the chilling sound of a bathroom stall door closing in the female toilets. I stopped for a moment and turned to face the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar, and wind was blowing through it. I was immediately horrified. You see, the door is one of those hydraulic doors that close on its own. Someone had to be holding it open from the inside. I panicked and ran out the fire escape doors, down the stairs all the way to the ground. In a huff, I ran to security to go back up to the floor and check out the bathroom. The security thought I had gone mad as the floor was empty and just assumed someone from another office had come down for a more private bathroom break. We got to the floor and walked all around. Nobody in the women's bathroom. Nobody in the men's. Who could it have been? I asked. Security said they would check the tapes and get back to me. What really creeped me out is that all the stall doors were locked. Maintenance hasn't unlocked them, as there are no tenants. A few days had passed, and I had completely forgotten about the experience. Back to my normal programming of sitting behind a desk and focusing on the logical processes of my day-to-day. A late Friday afternoon, I get a knock on my door from 3 of the security guards asking me to confirm my story from a couple days ago. I explained myself again and told them what I had seen, and they stared at each other in a rather weird manner. I asked them what was going on, and they explained to me the following. Nobody came to the floor. The security footage didn't catch anyone on the floor, not even me. I stood in silence. Sir, are you sure it was floor 14? I was certain of it. Each floor has a sign. They assured me they checked each floor to see where I had popped up, but nothing. Here's where it gets more intense. There are tapes of me walking out the elevator on the ground floor, normal and mundane. I asked the security guards to let me see the footage myself, and that's when I saw it. On the top right corner of the camera facing the doors of the office on floor 14, the face of a woman. I know she's there, and she knows I exist. I have lost 17 kilograms in the last 2 months as I no longer take the elevators.
Well, I totally get why you won't use the elevator anymore. I mean, the experience does sound scary, but I'm sure the stairs are a better alternative. The long, dark, creepy stairs. Well, I think that's it for another night. It's late, and it's time for everyone to go. I mean, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. But before you leave, could you do me a little favor? Could you please hit like, subscribe, and share this video? It'll really help us keep the ghosts at bay. And of course, if any of you have a story to share, or have anything you'd like to tell me at all, then by all means, drop me a line in the comments. But I do want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope the stories we told won't be giving you too many bad dreams. But if they do, then maybe you shouldn't run from them. After all, sometimes it's better to embrace your nightmares.